And for the main event of the evening, AEW managed to blow something even better than Marilyn Chambers ever did, because they managed to blow one of their sponsorships. We'll talk about that in a minute. But for the garbage wrestling championship of the universe, I guess, the Painmaker Chris Jericho faced the bank-addicted drug robber on national television. And I had alternating emotions. I felt sad for Chris. I was embarrassed for the wrestling business. I even, at some points, felt bad for some of the people in their locker room, even though they brought this on themselves, AEW. Some of the guys back there had to be going, oh, come on. What the fuck? It's embarrassing. The guy that tried to get in the ring the other week on live TV looked like more of a threat to Jericho than this guy. Here comes down the ramp. Well, first of all, Jericho comes out first in the Painmaker outfit and reminded me of, remember when Dusty teamed up with the Road Warriors and painted up and wore the spikes?
Yes.
Dusty also teamed up with the Rock and Roll and fucking wore bandanas, but he was trying to, sap some over. So Jericho looks like a Road Warrior in a cross between a Road Warrior and like I said, the chairman of the board of a German S&M club. And here comes, he was announced at 207 pounds. Can this guy be 5'6"? He's got broken, missing, yellowed teeth, a meth head, basically introduced from the Murder, Death, Kill gang. So now we're promoting gang signs, gang symbols. And these are notes I wrote, and we'll come back to talk about this. I wrote, TNT wants this on their station. Shouldn't some authority be investigating these people? The Murder, Death, Kill gang that this clown represents. They're doing trash TV now for the lowest common denominator, trying to hotshot this thing, because Tony Khan is not smart enough to realize he's got legitimate mainstream momentum with Bryan Danielson and CM Punk. But just to make sure that poor Chris Jericho's midlife crisis doesn't enter a new phase, Tony Khan allows him to do this garbage match on television to prove that he can hang with the young kids in some respect, I guess. That's what Chris is thinking. Tony Khan and Chris Jericho literally invited the guy that bites the live chicken's head off at the freak show to dinner at the White House. It embarrasses the business and makes the deathmatch scum, more important, believe they're really pro wrestlers. It's like when Trump got elected. All of a sudden, every subgenre of subhuman, the conspiracy theorists, the right-wing militias, the racists, the fucking homophobes, the all-around stupid people that deny science and reality, were validated, but the president's one of us. So that's why they all came out of the fucking woodwork. Well, obviously, they're not going to lead an insurrection on the Capitol like those fucks did, because this is still wrestling and not real life and political fucking drama. But this exhibition that they gave here validates every one of those garbage match wrestlers and every one of the garbage deathmatch fans that have been viewed as subhuman sewer dwellers all this time, and now we're real wrestlers. See, one of us is on TV. And it just encourages them, because Tony Khan's a mark, Jericho's having a midlife crisis, and nobody can tell either one of these guys no. That's why this happened. And just to top it off, a no-rules match with this supposed dangerous convicted felon maniac against the Painmaker, and the referee is 125-pound Aubrey, a girl. MJF came out with popcorn to do commentary, and I couldn't even listen to MJF because I was gobsmacked and dumbstruck at what they were allowing on their television. The Murder, Death, Kill gang representative is pacing around in the ring with a pizza cutter and walking around like he's already shit his own pants with some kind of squat-legged fucking stance. while MJF is introducing himself. Did you ever see Abdullah the Butcher walk over in the corner and wave his fork at the fans while somebody was going to color commentary, or was he just fucking committing mayhem?
Just mayhem.
On the first move of the match, he waves the pizza cutter at Jericho, and Jericho blades his arm. This was where immediately I started getting sad for Chris. A 50-year-old multimillionaire that used to be a star somehow has convinced himself that he needs to cut his arms with a razor blade to further a match with a fucking bank robber and a drug addict who does garbage shit in front of garbage people. And Chris has convinced himself this is somehow going to lead him to be remembered fondly by the wrestling public because he engages in garbage blood matches with scum. They went to the floor, they threw bad-looking punches, and they took weak rail bumps. And then Gage did some sloppy shit to Jericho. You can see the scars all over this clown's bald head from all this stupid shit he's done. He's a human scar. And then Jericho comes out from under this and gets the walls of Jericho, the Boston Crab, and the bank-addicted drug robber, I will call him Batter for short, reaches out and gets the ropes, and the referee calls for a rope break in a death match with no rules. But you got a break on the ropes. They're trying to have a wrestling match in the middle of this thing when they opened with a pizza cutter. So then they go to the floor, and Jericho grabs a headlock and has to throw 4 obviously fake headlock punches to Gage's head before Gage was able to hear, "Post me!" And then he did, so Jericho could now blade his head after he's already bladed his arm. So far, I've had wrestling school students that were in their first class that a pro could have had a better match with than Nick Gage. Then Gage brings out light tubes from under the ring, and the idiot, low IQ AEW fans go crazy because a guy is bringing out fluorescent light tubes. But Jericho gets a baseball bat. And Jericho hits Gage with 3 fake baseball bat shots. I'm not saying it was a fake bat. I'm saying the shots were fake because they didn't look good, but I know they were fake because Gage got right up and stopped Jericho, and Jericho dropped his bat. And then Gage ignores the bat laying there so that he can pick up his pizza cutter. Brian, if you're in a fight with a guy, you got your choice. The bat or the pizza cutter? Which is your pick?
It depends if I'm anywhere near fresh pizza.
Well, we'll talk about that later on. Fresh pizza. It's going to be...
No, we won't.
It's going to be very scarce around the AEW locker room.
I wouldn't call it fresh either, but anyway.
Yeah. So, Chris Jericho, as I mentioned, a wealthy 50-year-old, formerly respected professional wrestler, is allowing a fucking scum-sucking, bottom-feeding, bank-robbing, meth-cooking circus geek to slice his head up with a pizza cutter on TNT cable nationally across the world. And that's the break spot. And as that pizza cutter is slicing Jericho and blood's flying everywhere, they go to the break and the spot's for Domino's Pizza. And the first thing you see is this pizza cutter cutting this delicious, steaming piece of pizza, this pizza pie. We'll get back to that. They come back on the other side of the break. By the time they're back, there's 4 chairs, a baseball bat, fluorescent light tubes, and a pizza cutter, and a pane of glass in the ring, which the bank-addicted drug robber, Batter, sets the pane of glass across the chairs that he's set up. Jericho is helpless and selling. There's multiple weapons within Batter's reach, and old Charlie Manson Jr. here is stacking shit on top of shit to throw his opponent through it. So the bank-addicted drug robber puts Jericho under the pane of glass so that then he can jump off the ropes onto the glass and then, of course, moving on through to Jericho. Of course, why wouldn't you do that? But Jericho gets up and blocks it, gets up on the turnbuckles and hits 10 fake punches to Nick Gage's head. And I know it's hard to punch bald guys, but it can be done if you're not blown up and disgusted, which is obviously what Jericho was at this point. And he gave a Hurricane Rana to bank-addicted drug robber through the pane of glass, sending glass flying into the crowd everywhere. NewLawOffice.com, 888-692-8084. And after this bump where a guy got Hurricane Rana'd off the top rope and took a forward flip through a pane of glass, shattering into a million pieces, you see the camera shot of the crowd in the front row, and they're smiling and laughing. And that tells the whole story. Oh, by the way, that was a 2 count. Hurricane Rana off the top through a pane of glass and chairs to the floor. That's a 2 count. The people were laughing at this. That's what they came for, to laugh at the freaks in the freak show. I'm sad for Chris that he feels that this is something that he has to do for some reason. But nevertheless, then Jericho takes a bump in the glass. And the sideshow geek breaks multiple light tubes over his head and gives Jericho a pile driver in the glass for a 2 count. And this is where I was insulted that they were doing this in a formerly great wrestling town in my adopted hometown, where I lived for longer than I lived for anywhere except Louisville, Kentucky in my life. And thinking of what all the great talent that had appeared there before would think of this. It was both disgusting and moving at a snail's pace at the same time. So then Badder stabbed Jericho in the head with a broken light tube multiple times. Remember, it's printed in the Midnight Express book that TBS, the Turner Broadcasting System, sent WCW a memo in 1989, madder than fucking hornets, about us putting a plastic bag over Ric Flair's head. Don't ever do this again.
Clash of the Champions.
Yep. Now Meth Head McGee pulls out taped light tubes that are taped together, and JR finally has had enough. And he says, well, this is fun. And Tony Schiavone not picking up on that JR would rather be having another goddamn intestinal operation like he had years ago than be sitting in front of this exhibition. Tony didn't pick up on that. Tony said, this is the place to be, is it not? And there was dead silence. JR didn't say a fucking word, and excrement knew probably from the look on JR's face not to jump in.
Tony was pretty unbearable throughout this episode, but specifically here, he's just becoming overly effusive about everything, and he laughs through everything.
I'm telling you, he's got the biggest paying job he's had in 20 years. He didn't watch wrestling for 20 years. He doesn't give a fuck anymore. He's thrilled to be there, and he just laughs at the whole thing because what the fuck has happened to the wrestling business? He don't know. And it's not his job to find out. And so he's the perfect one for this, but JR is realizing that the smell of this is getting all over him. Jericho's doing it willingly. JR signed to be an announcer of a wrestling show, and now this is what he's going to have to put up with. Jericho's doing it to be cool for whatever reason. So then finally Jericho hit bank-addicted drug robber with the light tubes and hit him with the Judas elbow and 1, 2, 3. And that was it. Bloody, garbage, mess, sad, embarrassing, insulting, bewildering on so many levels. I don't know what to think. And then the only way they could top that was with the lead to next week. So his first labor, Jericho's was, according to MJF, was, you got to fight Shawn Spears, and Shawn Spears can use a chair, and you can't. The second week, he's got to engage in a bloodbath full of weapons with a goddamn legitimate brain-damaged goof off the street where anybody could be hurt at any minute. Next week, he's got to hit a move off the top rope to win the match. Oh, and by the way, your opponent is Juventud Guerrera, who you knocked in a promo last year. Is somebody that's organizing this program a fucking 90s WCW mark? Or has Juventud Guerrera been famous for the last 15 or 20 years and I missed it?
Well, they even said he hasn't been on TNT in 15 years. It's actually 20 years. He hasn't done too much in the States since that time.
And how old is he now?
He's got to be at least my age, 41, maybe up to 45.
No, wait, think about this. Juventud Guerrera was on WCW television in 1998. That's 23 years ago. What was he, 17, 18 then, or was he in his 20s?
He's 46.
Okay, the fucking top rope aerial artist that Jericho has to hit a move off the top rope to win against is 4 years younger than Jericho. And aren't you following a shooting with a stabbing? Or maybe even actually a murder with a pickpocketing to go from a death match with a bank-addicted drug robber to, oh, you got to wrestle a middle-aged luchador and win with a move off the top rope. Give me your thoughts on this exhibition of a match before we talk about the rest of the story with what happened the next day that nobody could have ever foreseen coming.
Probably not a shock to you. I didn't think very much of this. I had never watched a Nick Gage match, but I'd seen clips. Just recently I saw
two of us.
I saw the Matt Cardona clips from, what was it, last weekend or something. And it hit me watching this. This guy isn't good. I mean, any of the things that you'd be able to do in a wrestling ring beyond deathmatch wrestling, it doesn't seem like those are his skills. So then it comes down to just the deathmatch stuff, and it hit me that this is like Joey Ryan and the Dick Spot. Jericho doing this is exactly the same thing, where everyone, for a while, that became the thing. You had to do it. You had to participate. You had to do it. When I watch Nick Gage standing there, and it's so stupid, holding up the pizza cutter, holding up the light tube, and then doing it the same way that I just watched him do it to Matt Cardona in that video, I realized this isn't very special. This doesn't look very good. This guy isn't very good at it. At least in my eyes, I'm no deathmatch aficionado, but it's like the Dick Spot. And this is the thing of the moment where Nick Gage has got a moment here and people will pay attention to him and indulge him like this, but I think they may be embarrassed they were ever a part of it. Who knows?
You know, also, that's a poisonous gas that's emitted in addition to the glass flying everywhere. That's a poisonous gas that's emitted when you break those tubes, which is why they're only supposed to be disposed of in certain ways. So maybe newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. Maybe somebody caught some kind of issue from that. Who knows?